welcome to our first video for Trending Worth Recommending with Corey. As some of you may know me from the bench when you call at night or during the day if you need help with something. But little did you know, I'm also a designer too. So, here's our first video on unstructured bouquets. It goes along with the post that we were posting last week about ingredients to give you the perfect structure for an unstructured bouquet. So, we're going to start with a lot of our basic ingredients that we talked about last week, which we have our silver dollar eucalyptus. So, I usually like to start with like about 3 pieces, just because this is going to give me my structure for the width as well as the shape that I'm going to go for. So I start with about 3 pieces. Now I'm going to take, this is going to be my main background that I'm going to build off of. It's going to be my blue hydrangea. So I'm just going to center that in all this gorgeous silver dollar eucalyptus. Perfect! Next, I'm going to start with another large flower that we didn't really discuss too much last week, but it's really hot in weddings right now. It's our Cafe au Lait dahlias, which, as I'm sure pretty much everyone knows, are the biggest dahlias for weddings right now. So we're just going to tuck a few of these in. So we're going to get one going up out of the top here. We're going to tuck one in towards the bottom. Okay. And then we're just going to do another one that's a little bit smaller, just to give us a little feeling of, hey look, they have multiple sizes. There we go. Alright, so now we got our dahlias in there. I'm going to start with some stock. I love peach stock. It's going to fill in nicely. It's also going to bring out the colors of everything else that we're using today. So I'm just going to kind of group everything off to the side. I'm a big fan of grouping because grouping is just so nice and clean looking. So I'm going to give me a little group off to the side here. So now we've got our grouping of stock going. Now, here is a traditional favorite for any wedding, any time of the year. Garden roses. And my personal favorite, peach Juliet. How can you go wrong? I don't know. So here we go. We're going to tuck in some garden roses up here through the top. Now I'm going to do in a grouping as well to counteract my stock on the other side. So there's like one there. And just remember, this trend is all about mixing in all different sizes and trying something new. So if you want to try and say, hey, let me see if this grouping works together, let me see if this combination works together, go for it. What's the worst that happens? You have to change it. So now that we have our grouping of garden roses and our dahlias, I'm going to tie this off. I usually like to tie it off with some bind wire just because you don't really see it as much. And it still has a nice good hold to it. So I'm going to tie this little bit off here. Okay. Alright, there we go. And I just tie it off this point because this is going to be my skeleton. So everything I do from this point on is going to build off of what I have going on here. So, I'm going to start with, what do I want to start with? I'm going to start with some hypericum. So I'm going to tuck some peach hypericum in. And this is a little bit more of a pinky peach, but it's really going to play off of the Juliet roses really nicely. Now this I'm not grouping like I am with my larger mass flowers that I used in the center, just because these accent flowers are, as I said, an accent. Now we're going to add some blue tweedia. Now I love blue tweedia because it's going to give you that wild gardeny look, but it's also going to bring out the color of the blue hydrangea and bring it out to the ends of the bouquet. So that way it's not all focused around the center. And let's see what I'm going to do next. Oh, we have some gorgeous white astilbe. Now white astilbe, how can you not love that in a nice garden bouquet? It's really going to soften the look and just add a nice air of texture. And remember, experimenting is key with this. So if you want to experiment with textures, add some astilbe. You can add green trick dianthus, just something that's going to add a little bit of texture and make it interesting, that's going to make you want to take a closer look and say, hey, what is that? So we're going to tuck some peach ranunculus in here, and I know peach ranunculus does tend to show up a little bit more orange than peach, but it's really going to play off the rest of the colors in this bouquet really nicely. It's going to really soften a lot of the lighter peaches, and it's just going to make them pop a little bit. Using all different stages of the flower is really key to giving you a nice, good feeling of depth in the bouquet. So putting buds up through the top and leaving them a little bit longer, that's just going to give you that homey garden feel. So we're going to tuck some in all around the bouquet here. And I, for one, am always looking for new colors to pop with peach, because peach is such a big wedding color right now. So whether it's mixing in blues or salmons, or even some like bright greens, it's just really fun to play off of. And just remember, with this unstructured design style, as you're working through it, it's all about experimentation. So if you don't like the way something looks, change it. It's not about creating a structured style out of a picture. It's about expressing yourself and giving everything the freedom to shine in its own crazy, wacky way. Okay, so now, off of this other side over here, I'm going to start adding my regular roses. I use Peach Tiffany in this because it really has a nice contrast with your garden roses, the Peach Juliets. Next, we're going to move on to our Queen Anne's lace. Now, the Queen Anne's lace is going to give us a really nice gardeny feel. It's a little bit wild, a little bit crazy, but yet it still holds on its own. And it really lends itself to this design style. And I know a lot of people think Queen Anne's lace is like an old-fashioned flower, or it's a weed. But in this new design style, it really lends itself to any design. So we just stick some off to the side. And that's the thing, even though it is unstructured and you don't really have a set structure to follow, you still want to keep your design balanced, because then otherwise when you look at the bride, it's going to be all off to one side and make her look awkward. And now, we're going to move on to some of our bay leaves. And the wonderful thing is, bay leaf doesn't really have a heavy odor. So even though it is an herb, it's not going to be overwhelming when the bride carries it. We're going to move on to some jasmine vine. Now, I absolutely love jasmine vine for this. It just gives you this wild and crazy, free-spirited feel. And I know I'm making a mess, but that's what this is about. This is about being unstructured, being free, making a mess when you have to. And jasmine vine is really quickly gaining popularity. Almost like 6 months ago, you barely saw it, and most people didn't even know what it was. And now, all of a sudden, it's showing up in every major design. Every company's doing it. So here we go. We're going to add some jasmine vine coming up all around the place. Now, if you kept up on our vlog last week, we mentioned a lot of these ingredients. So I wanted to show you how they can be applied in an actual demonstration of it. So that's why we incorporated things like our silver dollar eucalyptus, which is really, really gaining popularity. We're using our jasmine vine. We're also incorporating things like ranunculus and garden roses and the Queen Anne's lace as well. Okay, so now that I have my structure going, I like to tie this specific design off with a chenille stem, mainly because the chenille stem still allows you to maneuver stems in and out of the design without taking it apart. I used to always use like the floral corsage tape when I was doing it, but I was finding with this design style that I couldn't alter my designs without taking the bouquet apart. If I tried to pull out a stem, the whole thing would like come apart. But with this, it holds it, but you can still maneuver flowers. Like this dahlia down here that is like way too low. We can still pull you up. Perfect. At this stage of the game, we're going to have to cut the stems. So we're just going to cut all our stems off here nice and short. Well, semi-short. I don't like to cut it so short at this point, mainly because I don't know if I'm going to alter it, how long I want to leave it. That I figure out usually as it's going out the door. But for right now, I'm just going to leave it at this length because it's long enough where I can put it in a vase or a bucket and still be able to use it. And work with it and maneuver it, and it's lovely. Now, wrapping for these, I love to use texture. So I've got a nice swatch of burlap here. I cut it, well, maybe like 3 or 4 inches and just fold it over in half. That way it's a little doubled, so it's not going to be as flimsy. And it also has this nice fun little textured edge only on one side. I'm gonna take this and stick it up under here and just wrap it around a few times. It's not about covering the whole stems all the way anymore. It's about leaving it a little bit different so it stands out. And look, perfect. It ended right in the front. So traditionally I would fold this over to give it a little bit more of a cleaned off, polished look. But with this design style, I really like to leave this unfinished edge because I feel like it just adds like a homemade feel to it. So I'm just gonna stick one pin in there for now because we are gonna talk about lace. So I'm gonna give it some lace streamers, but I'm also gonna finish it off in like a shoelace bow. So let's see here. I'm gonna get us a little bit of a good length here going. And I'm gonna go around the bouquet here. And just around the top, I'm gonna give myself a really nice and preferably even shoelace bow. I'm gonna accent it with some pearl pins. Now pearls are quickly taking over for rhinestones. Rhinestones, they're still popular, but they're starting to take a back seat to the old-fashioned pearls and lace. So we're starting to really bring back a really vintage feel. So I like to do just a couple of them, like a little grouping, because it kind of gives you a feel of a vintage brooch, but at a fraction of the cost. Look at that, we're saving you money here any way we can. And there you have it. We have our nice garden feeling, vintage inspired, unstructured bouquet.